Welcome back to another episode of Let's Face the Facts. I'm your host. My name is David Almeida. I'm an actor in Orlando, Florida, and every week I sit down with a fellow actor or artist from the wonderful Orlando, Central Florida arts community. We watch an episode of The Facts of Life, and then I hit record and we talk about the show and anything else that we feel like. This week, my guest is Joy Andersen. I do not work with Joy. I have never worked with Joy, and I don't know her. She's just a random person who wandered into my house, and I said, hey, let's do a podcast. Actually, she is a fellow theme park worker. She is an amazing comedian, funny lady, actress, singer, dancer, a former Rockette, and she and I have known each other socially through other common actor friends, and it just seemed like I had to get her over here because I genuinely wanted to hang with her and actually get to know her a little bit better. And we had so much fun. We went on so many tangents. I had over 3 hours of raw footage. Like, the outtakes exceed the actual show in length. As soon as I finish recording this, I've got to tackle that monster of how to pare that down and what to share with you and what is not appropriate to share. Anyhow, Joy and I watched season 3, episode 10, entitled Cousin Geri Returns. The original air date was December 30th, 1981. And I think we're ready to jump on in for the final episode broadcast in 1981. Let's Face the Facts with Joy Andersen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show. You may stand as you applaud, Joy Andersen! Welcome, darling.
Hi.
So good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
You and I are peripheral friends, but we've never really hung out before.
No, never.
We have the same hairstylist, it turns out.
We do, and we didn't even know it.
Yeah, my sister.
I know, it was awesome. And I couldn't believe, I didn't even make the connection until we were at Target. And I'm like, wait, I did know that, but Joy doesn't use her brain for any of that.
Well, when I ran into you and our mutual friend Alison, the wonderful Alison Fisher, and as my sister approached, my brain went, I need to introduce her to these actress friends of mine. And I actually had to do the thing of, that's Joy Andersen, that's Alison Fisher. I do have the names right, using my aged shuffle brain. And as she approached you and she were like, hi!
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, how do you?
She knows way too much about me.
She
knows way too much because she's kind of like, when you're a hairstylist, you're kind of hairstylist / psychologist / best friend / I can tell you anything because really, who are you going to tell and who really cares about my personal life?
Except your brother, who I may work with someday.
Okay. Oh, yes, son of a bitch.
This is actually not the first podcast that you've done.
I know. It's kind of crazy. I don't even listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
And I was asked to do one a couple months ago, which was kind of awesome.
Wonderful Sarah Hanchar's Hi, I Think You're Nice.
Hi.
And I recommend everybody listen to it because your stories are so fucking hilarious.
Really?
You are delightful.
They're my stories, so they're
boring to you.
They are. I try to make them more.
Did you listen to the show?
I listened halfway through and then I got bored with myself.
Oh, girl.
But I should go back and listen. Okay. I'm very busy and I think I'm very ADD and I can't focus on one thing, for long enough to complete it. That just sounds kind of dirty and weird, but
No, I'm the same way. So, this show, The Facts of Life, you have a familiarity with it. You watched it, you were saying.
I did. I'm not a huge TV watcher, to be honest. And even as a kid, I wasn't. I was that kid that had to run around outside, and I was that kid that had shin splints because I was just running, and I was that kid that, I couldn't have the brown pop because I would sleepwalk. My mother called it the brown pop. Yeah, well, I think didn't we? I think I talked about that on the other podcast.
Did you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't remember that part of the podcast.
My mother didn't know. My mom and dad and my two sisters were all from Denmark. I'm the only one in my family born in this country, and my mom didn't know that there was caffeine in soda. or pop, as we called it in the Midwest.
So the brown pop.
So whenever we'd go to a party, and my mom would always say, "Just don't give Joy the brown pop," and they were like, "Don't give Joy the brown pop. She can have the clear, but she can't have the brown." And my mom didn't know why, but it was because brown pop had caffeine in it.
Oh, sure.
And it would make me sleepwalk.
Oh, so it was like
Ambien.
Ambien.
I was a hyper kid. I was that kid that, phrase for my childhood is sit still. So in essence, I wasn't one of those people or one of those kids that sat down for any length of time to watch TV.
Yeah.
But this was one of the shows that it was like, oh, this is on. Okay.
Yeah, because the comments you made during our screening, you had a clear familiarity and a point of view about some of the characters.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, let's share those again.
Right. Well, my favorite character is Jo.
Jo.
I loved her because I loved that she was sharp-witted.
Mm-hmm.
I love that she just said it like it was.
Mm-hmm.
I love that she was beautiful, but she downplayed her beauty. I love that she was kind of I felt like she was the grounded one of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like I want to be like her.
Yeah.
And I fucking hated Blair.
Yeah,
I really
had a
hated
very,
her.
very visceral negative reaction to Blair. And this is a bad Blair episode. This is a really bad
she's not
show for
nice.
her.
Yeah.
This one we watched.
Yeah. It was,
oof. But yeah.
Because she had that nice little talking and how she talks and her hair doesn't move because there's so much hairspray. There's a little bit, and she's like, I'm so pretty all the time.
And her pitch there was a lot of high pitched. Don't you understand what's going on here? Yeah. I don't believe. There's a lot of the inflection that is not her most pleasant.
No, and it reeks of I'm the best that there is. On here. And then the other characters I just think are funny. Yeah. And they are themselves, where she just feels very phony to me.
Yeah. And that's by design. The
thing
is,
but I hated her.
And you are entitled to. You're entitled to have your opinions, and you're not alone.
My hate is internal.
Your hate is justified. In the Facts of Life Cinematic Universe, or the FOLCU as I call it.
Oh, okay.
The overarching thing with Blair is that she is surface, she is vain.
Yeah.
And she is certainly privileged and often takes that privilege for granted. But when the chips are down, she always is there for her friends.
Oh,
for
really?
all the insults that she hurls at Jo. When Jo has had moments of distress or need, there has never been a second guessing. Blair's instantaneous turn was, I'm defending my friend.
Oh.
So she's the kind of the bitch with the heart of gold. We just didn't really give her much of an...
Are really those characters in real life?
No,
really?
This is a complete sitcom trope. Complete. Yeah. And
this
to me...
is real to me, David. It's so real I have to live out.
Is it?
I can't deal anymore. Okay,
I went to Eastland School. I wore those pleated skirts.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Which we didn't really get a lot of, actually. We didn't get a lot of the uniforms because this was a weekender of a show.
We had Blair in her pink robe.
Yeah.
She was like...
dowdy.
I was surprised that she didn't have like pink matching high heel shoes to
I know,
walk
with
around.
Marabou on the toes.
Right. Right. It was a little darling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there were some fashion fails all over the place throughout the show, throughout the series, throughout the everything.
Are we gonna touch on that?
We're going to, girl. You said you loved how Jo was always just disgusted with the others.
Yeah, she just every shot of her is her crinkling her eyebrow like, what the fuck are you saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to call you out on what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah.
That's basically her character.
Yeah.
I would love to play a character. Oh, wait. I do play that in my real life.
But let's begin with the structure of this show. Is that, first of all, we watched the show and the title was called Cousin Geri Returns. This was season 3, episode 10. So we're in the third year.
How many episodes in a season normally?
Typically 22.
Okay, so we're halfway through the season.
22.
Okay.
So yeah, we're about halfway through, and we're at the end of the year too. That's also how you know. This was originally broadcast December the 30th of 81. So we are 1982 is nigh, just days away here.
There it is.
And at the beginning of of this before we get into talking about the nuts and bolts of the plot and stuff.
Right.
I always ask my guests, forgive me for putting you on the spot, would you please synopsize this episode in just one sentence, maybe two? Think of what you might see as the listing in the TV guide for that week.
Wow.
Joy Andersen.
I have to do the
Go.
Wait, the TV guide version?
As
Or
in-
or
well,
or
just
would
it-
this be like, well, Joy, what's this show about?
Blair's a bitch and I fucking
yeah.
hate her.
Blair's inappropriate, and people set her straight that people with some sort of
Disability.
disability.
That's the word we use now, not the word they use
no.
on the show.
Right.
No.
But that everybody's human, and everybody should have a chance at failing and winning at whatever happens along their path.
Beautiful. That's all that needs to
Oh my
be
God, I
there.
totally feel like I passed.
Yeah, you totally passed.
Okay,
That was
good.
the correct
Okay,
answer.
good.
You passed. So let's start getting into this, because now this is you've come to this saying, David, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know what's expected of me. I don't know what I expect of you. And I was just like, girl, I got you.
I'm a perfectionist. I like to
I-
know what I'm in for, but I also like the danger of not knowing.
So let's begin the episode here. We begin the episode as they have begun so many episodes, with the lazy device of we're preparing for an event. So there's busy work and things for people to be doing.
So that's
And
why you have to have way too many bread
Mrs. Garrett
phallic
walks
bread
in.
things with phallic bread with Mrs. Garrett,
Yeah.
because all she thinks about is sex. That's
It's-
really
This is
she's got a problem.
They're all horny as hell
They
in this
are,
episode.
really,
all
all
of
of
them.
them.
Yeah.
Except for Joe. She's like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah. What the fuck? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She's the grounded one
And
of
she's
all of
newly
them.
single. She should be. She's only been single for a few episodes. She
Oh,
had
really?
a boy that Eddie, a sailor that she was engaged
Eddie.
to. Now she's taking time apart. So Joe is single.
And she rides a motorcycle.
She does. And
I vaguely remember that too, and somehow that was kind of cool. But
it's
I
so
don't
cool.
know. Yeah.
But what they are preparing for, Mrs. Garrett bursting into the room with an armful of baguettes all over her,
Because
covering her
everybody
face.
only eats baguettes at parties.
Yeah, it's like, but apparently this is a party that has a French theme, and
Yes.
Blair is helping to plan it because Blair often speaks French when I think the writers are also lazy and want to make her sound more educated, more rich, and when they have nothing to rely on but ideas from Miss Piggy is what I always say. Miss Piggy is the only other character I can think of that would say, oh, you just don't understand the joie de vivre. That's important. And no sooner do we learn about this party being planned than Cousin Geri arrives.
Cousin Geri comes in.
Yeah, and so the episode's called Cousin Geri Returns, and here she is returning within 30 seconds. It's like, wow. Usually they kind of pad the beginning a little bit before the thrust
And what
of the
is she
episode.
returning from? The
She-
first episode where she was introduced, or
Yeah.
the first time?
Yeah, she had been, it's not her returning from somewhere. It's her returning to East Lynde.
Right.
Because
So,
she is the first ever actress with a physical disability that was ever featured on a network television show.
first one, huh?
First one ever.
And that's because she was a stand-up comedian.
And yeah, she was brought to the attention of Norman Lear because he saw her do her stand-up, which was all cerebral palsy centric. And so with this, she's playing a role that is essentially herself, but she's Blair's cousin. And so she is here, and everyone's all, oh, she's here, the rising star.
Right.
So, but they do mention that she is headlining at the Browns Hotel. The Browns? It's like, okay. And she says, yeah, I'll get a lot of stage time in between the famous people. And it's like, well, if you're the headliner, you're not.
Wait, something's rotten here. What?
Yeah. It's like, no, the headliner
Is
not it's not the one, the host. Isn't it the host in stand-up world? Isn't it called?
Yeah, so why does somebody not know how the stand-up world
Well,
works?
these are middle-aged vaudevillian writers
Oh.
that we have here. That I swear that's what they are. And then when Geri says that it turns out that there was some confusion with the booking, they thought she was opening that night, which was the same night as the party, which means she couldn't go to the party and the girls couldn't go to see her perform. She says, no, I actually don't open till Monday. Yeah.
Who opens Monday?
Thank you.
Who opens on Monday?
Opens a stand-up comedy show at a hotel?
Nobody. Theaters are dark on Monday.
Yeah,
are these people off?
Theater. I could not agree with you more. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I can't
you are
believe
in my
you caught that.
You are
That
on
was
my
so
wavelength,
sharp.
girl.
That was scientific sharp.
There was, and that's how deep and microscopic I go with this. It's an illness. It is an illness.
Okay.
So because of that, she's like, well, I'm free tonight. And so someone says, well, why don't you come to the party? And Blair very immediately is like, oh.
Embarrassed. She's embarrassed. Right now?
Yeah. And fold this corner over in the missed opportunities. Okay. So Blair is not thrilled. And then when she says, oh, I could do it, but, and Geri says, okay, cool. And Blair tries to put on her best face and says, of course. Well, tonight we're going to paint the town rouge. That's a typical Blair putting in a French word to be
nice,
sassy and continental or whatever. Then Mrs. Garrett takes Geri into the kitchen for whatever reason. And while they're gone, Blair is like, this is terrible. This is awful. And they're like, why? And she says, Geri can't go. She doesn't have a date.
Yeah, nobody can go single anywhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't anybody know that?
Being single is the worst disability a person can suffer from.
I've been disabled for 10 years.
Very quickly, Natalie and Tootie step in and are like, well, maybe we could find a date for her then if that's so important. And then Blair starts in with, maybe we could fix her up with that senior boy from Bates, the one in the wheelchair.
What is that?
And Joe, beautifully being her, what was it you were saying you loved about?
She was blunt.
That she took
doesn't
no shit from anybody.
Yeah, she was just like pointing out your shit and saying, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Just, what are you doing? What are you saying?
And in this case, it was, do you hear what you say or do you just open your mouth and talk, is what she says. It was just beautiful. So while this is all going on, we cut to the kitchen where Mrs. Garrett and Geri are just hanging out. And in comes the French teacher, the male French teacher.
The only man in the whole episode.
Exactly.
Because that is
And he shows up and says, oh, Mrs. Garrett, we're trying to arrange the party and we don't have a punch bowl. And so she says, oh, okay, I'll help you. I have a punch bowl. So she gets up on a ladder, like on a step ladder.
Yeah.
And he sort of puts his hands kind of around her waist.
Yeah, and all of a sudden she's horny.
And all of a sudden she's like,
oh.
That's so Mrs. Garrett.
She like needs a fan. And she's maybe having a hot flash or something. I don't know what's happened. But and then everybody gets a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. You were saying earlier, we've unfortunately been enjoying each other's company and talking during the episode. And now I'm sitting here going, did we say this already or was this something we said before?
You're going to have to listen to it later.
You made the comment about how horny everybody is.
Everybody's horny.
And I said, this doesn't pass the Bechdel test. And you didn't know what that was.
No, what is the Bechdel test?
Alison Bechdel. She's the one who wrote the graphic novel that Fun Home is based on.
Oh.
So she's the lesbian writer, I guess activist, you could also say.
Right.
But one of her comic strips called Dykes to Watch Out For, the criteria, I'm looking this up on Wikipedia. I'll post this comic strip on my website here. The movie has to have at least 2 women in it. The 2 women have to talk to each other. And they have to talk to each other about something besides a man.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it is astounding how few films, particularly when this came about, which was in 1985. Back to the thing of the amount of horny and talking about men. And
Natalie and
Natalie was in estrus, I swear.
She was needing some medication or something.
She was like about ready to pull down her panties and show her bubblegum baboon butt. She was like crazy.
Yeah. Get those little... No. But see, now, as I remember it as a kid, I remember them being very, very young. And like looking at it now, I'm like, there are a bunch of horny women that are just like swooning over this man.
They're teenagers.
Yeah.
To bring you up to speed. Everyone knows I obsess over the ages of the girls. Because often the show gets it wrong.
Okay.
But right now in this season,
Yeah.
Blair and Joe are 17. They are juniors in high school.
Okay.
Natalie is 15, but she is a sophomore. And Tootie is 14. She's a freshman. So they are high school girls, all of them.
They're high school girls.
Horny high school girls.
And Mrs. Garrett is like setting the example for, a man helps you up like a stepladder and, it's, I'm wet.
I do a bad Mrs. Garrett impression every episode.
Okay,
and
go.
I usually have to invite my guests to join me in doing their bad Mrs. Garrett impression, but...
Oh, girls! It's bad. I get it.
No, that's it. That's why I say you are welcome to do your bad Charlotte Ray.
I'm so wet! Unspoken dialogue.
He touched me on the waist. But... It's all about the vibrato.
Is it right? Is it in the... See, I'll go into Katharine Hepburn.
You do. Do you do Katharine Hepburn?
Oh, yes.
Of course.
Oh, Spencer would always love it when I would talk about him in public.
But yes, she was really horny. There were a couple of one-liners of Natalie.
Yeah, we'll get to them actually.
Okay.
We haven't. Natalie hasn't met him yet.
Are we still in like the first shot?
We are in like the first 2 minutes of this episode. So his name. So while Mrs. Garrett can gather her bearings from her dampness to remember to turn.
Her nipples were pressing out of that purple shirt. She was...
That was the that you heard.
And then she go, oh, like Joanna World.
And then she turns and says, Geri, this is our French teacher, Mr. Palmer. So she introduces them and it's like, hello. And it is interesting how, like you say, the celebrity component, she's met Michael Jackson. She's headlining at the Browns Hotel in Peekskill, New York. And yet, Mr. Palmer, Michael Palmer is his name, instantaneously says, oh my God, I know you. You're a comedian. You're hilarious. I've seen you somewhere on TV. And he goes, you're a comedian. Mrs. Garrett, Charlotte Ray, will sometimes have the oddest line deliveries and the oddest accents. And I think you heard me react to when he says, you're a comedian. And she turns and says, yes, she's a wonderful comedian. She pushes wonderful so hard.
She was like all up in his face, too. Did you see it?
She's like quickly trying to matchmake here. Though I'm surprised she didn't think like, bitch, get out. This guy had his hands on me. This is my turn. She didn't care
because we're in the era now where men are most important. We've forgotten this overall.
And thankfully, consent did not exist until about 3 years ago. So he could have probably done it with both of them. Is that her climaxing? Is that how Charlotte Ray?
It was wonderful.
Is he a good lover, Mrs. Garrett? He's a wonderful lover.
I can tell by his hands.
And so she says, yes, she's a wonderful comedian. You probably saw her on the Mike Douglas show. And she corrects her. Geri corrects Mrs. Garrett, says it was actually Merv Griffin, which were both like the two top afternoon talk shows. God,
So they had to get both of the names in? Is that what you think was happening?
I think they thought to themselves, you know what? In 38 years or so, this middle-aged queen is probably going to be watching it with his friends in Orlando. So let's put in references to all of the things from his childhood just to make him go, oh.
Oh my gosh, they planned that out
They
so
did
early
plan it
just
out.
for you.
They did. These middle-aged vaudevillian writers knew I was coming. And then he says he saw her on a telethon. Didn't she say it was the... or she said someone said they saw me on television. They said I might even get my own telethon.
Right.
I could have my own Jerry's Kids. Waka waka. Whatever it was.
And then we all awkwardly laugh in our homes. Ooh.
And then Geri even says, it was a joke. Obviously not one of my better ones. And you laughed so hard because it was like,
well,
spot on.
There's funny in truth.
Yeah. So Mrs. Garrett assumes one of Blair's catchphrases and says, I'm about to have one of Blair's, and speaking it in no way, shape, or form the way Blair has ever said it. She says, I have one of Blair's brilliant ideas, or whatever she does. It's like, I have said all along, Mrs. Garrett, Charlotte Rae, is amazing when she's in nurturing maternal motherly mode.
Yeah.
Her comedic choices are often
Not comedic.
broad and questionable, even in a sitcom format. I'm finding more questions than answers as I revisit all these.
Yeah, she's had a couple of lines where you're like, ouch.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have done a retake.
Yeah, she seems to really push it hard.
We
like
need
she
a line
leans.
reading. We need somebody to...
Yeah, she'll lean awfully hard into the laugh, or she'll do. So many people have been on this show and said, is she flirting with that guy? Is she flirting? And I've realized, no, it's just that Charlotte Rae will deliver a joke, and while she holds for the laugh, she'll bat her eyes and purse her lips, and I'm filling the space.
Yeah, and well, then you got that shimmery voice, which makes you sound like you're, a little bit of a...
Yeah.
you got a little...
So a lot of people are like, does she want to fuck that teacher? Does she want to? And it's like, no, that's just the way Mrs. Garrett
No,
acts.
I prefer to think of it as Mrs. Garrett really wants to fuck the characters. It makes her much more interesting. It makes her
agree
a little more
more.
real. But was she trying to make fun of Blair? Is she trying
no, I think she's just trying to mimic, that was, Blair will often say, she would just stop and just go, and the way Blair says, she goes, I just had one of my brilliant ideas. She would just kind of lean to the R.
Right.
A little bit. It's not, again, it's one of those.
Brilliant.
It's like she's trying to mimic subtlety, and I don't think that's in her wheelhouse. But the deal is, her brilliant idea is, Geri is there with her car. She says, Mr. Palmer is borrowing this punch bowl and a whole bunch of other things.
Right.
Why don't you throw him in your car and head on over there and help him transport the stuff? Great, cool. Well, then he mentions the party and says, are you coming? And she says, well, yeah, actually, I'm gate crashing just at the last minute. I'm going to be there.
Right.
So he says, do you have a date? And she's like, do I need one? And perfect opening. He's
Good.
like, yes, you do. And clearly this is my place to help you out.
Right.
And this very nice
Nicely,
flirtation,
yeah. I thought
nicely
it was
well
good.
done, and not him being too goofy or too
Smarmy or...
macho,
macho
or anything like that. Yeah. I said mercho as you said smarmy.
Well, shimmy.
Oh, dear.
Just call it, it's a Swedish word.
It's a Swedish.
Yeah, you're bilingual, that's fine.
We cut back to the dining room. The girls are still like, well, maybe we could get that toothless hobo out of the gutter to take Geri to this dance.
They're trying. Why are people trying to do things for somebody else? I mean, they feel like people have this need, just in life in general. They feel like when somebody is by themselves, they need to find somebody for them because you're not nearly as good by yourself.
Honestly, I'm at the point where I've been single long enough that I would welcome people trying to fix me up.
Yeah, nobody ever fixes me up because I think they're afraid.
Gay people don't. We don't. Culturally,
don't?
gay people do not
Really?
fix
They
each
don't?
other up. That is something
Well, my straight friends don't.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Most of my friends are gay.
There it is. Then Geri and Mr. Palmer come into the cafeteria. I forget why they're not leaving out the door on the other side, but they come in, at which point it's like, oh, hey, Mr. Palmer. He's their French teacher. He's part of the party. At which point Natalie comes over and says, hi, Mr. Palmer. I'm
She's
Natalie.
15.
She's 15. She's like, hi, next semester, you're mine. My French teacher, I mean. But Natalie's being all...
Yeah, she's being like
Oh,
really.
yeah, like right here. It's
She's
ready.
being Mrs. Garrett at a young age, right?
They have Mrs. Garrett's a bad influence.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to
Yeah.
behave.
So Natalie is typically the boy crazy one anyway. So it's a little, it's fairly on brand for her to be.
Yeah, but she always does that and then has that
Yeah.
that nice
And
smile.
and she does have a funny line. She still is such an inexperienced performer. Even in season 3, you still catch her trying to keep from smiling at her own joke.
Oh.
Later, when she's mad at the teacher and he comes over and says, you know,
she has to walk in front of him?
Yeah,
She
when
does
he
the-
says, he says, hey, Natalie, ¿cómo allez-vous? And she looks at him and says, aquí se habla español, and walks past him.
Right.
And
She's
you can see
smirking at herself.
You can see her trying to, fighting it. But she's better than she used to be. She's come a long way in these 3 seasons, absolutely. Okay, so then the time comes for some reason that Mr. Palmer has to leave. I don't remember why he came into the cafeteria just to exit, but upon exiting...
Because you need a man in every scene, David.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I know why. It is because the girls say, oh, Geri, we were just trying to find someone to go to you at the dance. She's like, oh, Mike is taking me to the dance. And they're all, what? Mike? Whoa. He's our teacher. He doesn't have a first name. What? So I think it's just to create that moment and her kind of being on his arm.
Right.
Sort of a thing. Well, then he leaves. He gives her a very lovely romantic kiss on the hand. And then Natalie thrusts her hand in his face looking for some of the...
She's a little hoe bag,
She wants a
isn't
little
she?
sloppy seconds on
What
that
is
hand
that?
kissing.
Yeah.
And then he
Doesn't
shakes
even
it.
care.
And thankfully, he appropriately says, hi, you're 15. I'm shaking your
Yeah.
hand. And you're not even my student.
Yeah, because you know that cousin is 23.
She's 23. We have stated explicitly
How
that
old
Blair...
is he, I wonder?
Him? Oh,
I wonder how
I
old
didn't
he
look
is.
that up. Lou Richards was born September 3rd, 1951. So he would be exactly 30 years old.
So she's 23, he's 30.
23 and he's 30. That's perfectly fine. So then he is gone. Then Geri is gone. Mrs. Garrett is gone. And now Blair basically lowers the boom. This is terrible. He's going to take advantage of her.
She's a terrible example of judgmental whore bitch.
Oh, wait a minute. No, she's on his side
Not
right
in
now.
this scene.
Yeah.
No, wait, what?
Yeah. No, actually,
I
no.
was-
Doesn't she say, and then Blair says that she likes the fact that they're going, because she says he's suave, intelligent.
Oh, right. Yeah, she boasts
Yeah.
everything about him. She thinks he's amazing.
So she thinks he's good
You're right.
insofar as a suitable date
Right.
for this one event.
Correct. So it's all good at this point.
At this point in the show, in the context of the show. And then we move on to the final scene of the first act before we go to commercial. So we're in the kitchen. Mrs. Garrett is in her bright purple nightgown, looking very lovely, actually.
She always wears a lot of purple. What's up with that?
I don't know.
It's her color.
And this scene,
It's her color.
it's the
I
color.
can't do her. You do her.
It's the color of the blood rushing to your private parts.
Why can't I do that? I wish I could.
Yeah. But it's going up and out of your head. And yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
But I think maybe she has man cords because
well,
obviously
she's
you can do it.
55 years old. And I mean,
And this?
yeah, she's 55 years
No
old.
wonder why she's so horny. She's 55 and she's living
55.
with a bunch of girls.
So Blair comes into the kitchen and she is all happy and proud of herself because she says, I have done it again. I've given Geri a night to remember. And she even says, it was so sweet. They were at each other's side. They danced.
even
the
danced,
slow
yeah.
dance. And she said,
Yeah, she was made a big deal about that they even danced a slow dance,
slow
wasn't
dance.
it? Yeah.
And she said it was like a regular date. He was so gracious. And so it is clear that Blair is talking like he was
Pretending.
doing this out of pity, that he
Yeah.
was throwing her, forgive the expression, throwing her a bone
Yeah.
by taking out the girl with the disability. So then Geri comes in. Hi. And Mrs. Garrett says, I'm really happy to hear that you two hit it off. And Geri responds, hit it off? Did Romeo and Juliet hit it off?
Yeah, what kind of line is that? Who writes that? Who writes that?
So she says they're going to spend the day tomorrow up at Sunset Ridge.
Bum, bum, bum. That's like Lover's Lane.
Yeah, that's where people go to bone. And
And of course, who knows that? Natalie. Natalie's eyes get really big, and all of a sudden she's got to rush to the bathroom to make herself clean again.
I know. And so anyhow, she's like, and then Geri goes up to bed. I have to point this out that you realize the girls are here working in the cafeteria because they're on probation. They did some stuff and some damage that they have to work off to pay the school back.
Okay.
Rather than get expelled, Mrs. Garrett has taken responsibility for them.
Oh, this is why they're all there.
That's why they're not
They're
all the
naughty
same
children.
age. They're naughty children. They live in what used to be
led by Mrs. Garrett, who's the naughty woman. Is this really a good supervisor way? Really?
Wow.
Is it really?
This show has a terrible role model.
Is this a good example for our children?
No wonder men in the 80s didn't know what consent was. They thought all women were horny, like the Facts of Life cast.
Still do.
Oh, there's funny and sad and truth.
Well, okay.
Yeah. But I have to point out that we've had this happen before where someone is staying with them. Geri has stayed with them before. Right. And it's like, where does she stay? So she goes up to bed, but there's that lingering question that I still put out into the universe. Where did people stay when they stayed upstairs over the cafeteria? Mrs. Garrett has her room, and the girls, 4 of them, live in a room like a single bedroom.
The same room?
They're all crammed in. Yeah,
they are. They're all in the same room.
All 4 girls in the same room.
Maybe
I don't know
there's
where
a closet of something.
I don't know. It is one of the greatest mysteries of the FOLCU. Facts of Life Cinematic Universe.
Oh my gosh, you're way too involved. But I love it. I kind of like it with my NPR voice.
Yeah, we can go there.
Yeah.
And then no sooner does Geri leave than Blair is crazy, upset. No, like this isn't how it's supposed to go. Geri's in love. He led her on. How could he do that? He is going to break her heart.
Yeah, so it's all about him doing something to her. Well, why? It's her. She's responsible for her own love, right?
Without regard to, you can talk to her, right? You know that she can hear. You know that you can say to her, don't you think you need to be a little more careful with being, or I see you're really smitten.
Right.
But
do you think else he feels like, what's wrong with being smitten?
I know.
And what's wrong with
do you think he feels the same way? It's like, don't get too crazy now. Just have a good time. Okay, sure. You know what I mean? You can. There were certain.
Yeah, but lots of people don't want to see people have success in love, and I think Blair is the example of that because she is so self-centered, and it's only happened to her. And we go, if you fast forward to the one thing, have you ever had somebody leave you or whatever? And she gives that look.
It looked
like no, I'm pretty. I don't ever have that.
Never.
But I think she probably has and just hasn't seen it. So I think in all of that regard, she...
And I'm the one going a little too deep, am I?
Just saying, the Facts of Life have really touched me deeply.
But the deal is, the tide has suddenly turned.
Yeah.
And Blair, without any concern for Geri having her own agency...
Right.
...is convinced that this is going to end badly and Geri's going to get hurt and that is the worst thing in the world that she could let happen because she basically feels like she arranged this whole party, which she didn't.
And she feels responsible for her cousin because her cousin has disability.
Yeah. But the thing is, and we get there a little bit later, but one of the things is I think the episode would have been better if at the beginning, this whole thing of Blair looking uneasy about Geri being there when Geri first says I'm going to the party and when we have that scene when the two of them after he gets the punch bowl when Mr. Palmer is there, Blair says to him, I think I'm feeling sick and I'm thinking I may not make the party. And then he says, it's too bad because I'm going with Geri. She's like, oh, well, I feel better now. So was she
thinking that he wanted
fake sickness because she didn't want to go to the party if Geri didn't have a date? It was very, very confusing.
And does Blair have a date?
Yeah, Blair. I've seen we've had parties where Blair had a guy on each arm.
Okay.
Including a dude that looked like Tony Orlando. Okay. It's like, I'm convinced it might have been.
So was she saying that in order to make her cousin not go then, right?
I don't know. That wasn't very clear.
Yeah, and at first I thought it was because she liked him.
Oh.
And that was my first impression, but that's not what it really showed up as.
No.
That's not how it read.
Yeah, the way
But you're like, what do you...
The way it coulda, shoulda read is she should have been thrilled that Geri was there. The first time we saw Cousin Geri, we were basically dealing with this same shit of Blair acting not happy that Geri's there, and we think it's because she's embarrassed about her disability, and we later find out it's because she's jealous. It's because when Geri was around, because of the disability, Geri was always the focus of attention.
Oh, that's in the first episode?
That's in the first time we meet Cousin Geri. So
okay.
Blair's lesson that she learns is that she needs to get the fuck over herself.
Okay.
But
she doesn't learn by this episode.
Yeah. And at the end of this episode, the lesson that Blair has learned is the right lesson. But it should have... They telegraph that from the first minute when Geri says, I'm going to the dance. It should have been, I'm going to the dance. Great, awesome, terrific. And then we're trying to find you a date. And then have her say, I've got a date. Then have her say, oh my God, even better, terrific. You've got a date.
Right.
And then
get worried.
Have the tide turn when it's like, and take away the whole, I did it for her. I gave her a night to remember. Her being so
that's just her damn
self-centered and arrogant.
Yeah, her awful personality.
Yeah, but to have her say, I was really happy to see her with a man, and she looked like she was having a good time, and I think it was really nice of him to take her.
Right.
Not a leading her on, not a he was being gracious, doing something clearly horrible that he was tolerating in the name of being a nice guy. If she had just said, I think it was so nice of him to take her, and she had a good time, and then have it be like, whoa, there's much more going on here. And now I'm worried my cousin...
now you're concerned.
...might get hurt. And that's what kicks in the reverting to her, fuck, Geri, I'm sorry. I forgot. You're still a person, and I need to remember that. And this just got me so upset, the idea that someone might hurt you. I forgot that. That's
a different message. Then it's a different message.
Yeah, you're right.
Whole thing.
I fixed this episode.
Oh my gosh!
Should we get in our time machine?
Can we go back and do it?
Can we?
No, but right, that would have been a much more positive and much better,
and more believable in that I'm not a complete asshole from the first minute.
Right.
It's like she give the two of them a good relationship to start the episode that then starts to fall apart because something is challenging it, because a new element has been added. That's good writing that we don't have here.
It's the facts of life.
It is the best sitcom in the world. All right, girl.
All right.
It is now commercial time.
Okay.
During the commercial, I like to get to know my guest.
Oh. All right. What do you want to know? What do you want to know?
I want you to give me the, I do a little James Lipton where I just simply go, so where were you born?
Okay. Elmhurst, Illinois.
Elmhurst, Illinois, Midwestern gal.
Yes.
You said earlier that you are from an immigrant family.
Yes, both my parents and my two sisters emigrated from Denmark.
Hence Andersen with the E-N.
Yes.
You were the firstborn here.
I'm the only one that can be president. You're welcome.
You're the... Which was their plan, their diabolical plan all along.
Yeah.
And so you were raised in Illinois.
Yeah.
Now, you are a comedic interactive actress. You are an actress. You are a singer. You are a dancer with a capital D. Where did you train? How did you... What brought you to the theater? And then, did you pursue a degree in it?
My sister came home with tap shoes.
Uh-huh.
And when I was in the 4th grade, I did this story in my cabaret show. And I might have...
Did you?
I might have even talked about it in that other podcast.
On Sarah's podcast, yeah.
But I was told in the 4th grade, when they come and they want to do all the band, they want to decide what instrument you're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so excited because I'm like, I want to play the drums. And they're like, girls don't play drums.
Yes, no.
You can play the oboe or the clarinet or the flute. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking play those stupid instruments. I want to play the drums.
Uh-huh.
And so they handed me a clarinet, and I was like, and I was never interested in it. My sister, she went and took dance classes. She was 9 years older than I, and she came home with these tap shoes. And I'm like, hey, those things make noise.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I want to do that. So I started dancing.
So you started dancing.
Started dancing in a little garage studio that had a beam in the middle of it, so you couldn't really leap.
Oh yeah.
But I was a tapper. I wasn't really. I was kind of put into the classes with my sister because it was just easier. Yeah. There was basically, I don't know, 25 people in the dance school or something like that.
And you were like 9 or
8.
8 or 9.
I started when I was 8. Yeah.
That's
but I was a tapper, and I should have been a musician because I think that's why I gravitated towards tap.
Cool.
Took stuff, and then I quit dancing in high school because I was on the pom-pom squad, and I did the school musicals, and then they found out I was funny, and so then I was just kind of cast into funny, quirky things, and my mom always said that. She goes, I knew when you were little that you would be a comedian, you'd be funny. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? We'd done the Wiz, and I had this bird costume, and I figured out how to make there was like this little beak thing, and it was like this hooded thing with the beak sticking out, and I figured out if I could put my chin on it, I could make the bird talk. And I made the bird talk, and the audience laughed, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
My mom's like, you saw that the audience would laugh at you, and you took that and you'd run. So I've always wanted to be a singer, oddly enough.
And you sing.
I do sing, but that's what I was like when I was a kid. I loved the microphone.
Yeah. Or the hairbrush that you were pretending was your microphone.
Yes. I was fascinated with that, but I took dance classes and I was coordinated. I like doing that.
And so after high school, did you just go straight out into the professional world?
I went and I begged for a dance scholarship at Gus Giordano's in downtown Chicago, and I used to go 6 days a week, and I was like, I'm here 6 days a week, and they gave me a half scholarship because I missed the auditions or whatever. So I did that for a while, and then I got a job on a cruise ship singing. And I was petrified because I had to actually sing, and I had nobody in my family was a performer or anything, so I was like, wee, I'm going on a cruise ship.
Well, when you're young, that's the time to do it because you don't know what you don't know.
But I was really not professional enough, but you learn some things there. I was only there for 3 months.
Yeah, you do it, but you learn it as you go. That's.
And then I went home for a year, and the man that I met on the cruise ship, I ended up moving in with him in Orlando, and we lived together 6 years, and then we got married, and we were together 10 years of marriage, so 16 years total.
Wow.
He was a musician.
So,
and then from that, I guess I was at Beauty and the Beast. I danced. I danced for a while, or I did the German beer garden, and I was a singer, 2-day singer, 3-day dancer, and I learned how to yodel. That was delightful.
That's fun.
Nice. But then,
and that's all,
and
you work for the mouse.
I'm kind of one of those lucky people that people go, hey, you're funny. Why don't you come do this? Oh, okay. And then I get in there and I'm like, I don't know how to memorize a script.
Yeah.
I don't understand funny. And then I would have people like Lisa who would teach me how to be funny.
Lisa Wolf-Penkel, friend of the podcast.
Yes. Oh my gosh. She was totally amazing and taught me how to be funny. I love her for that.
Yeah. Well, I am so happy that you were able to make the time to be here. I always thank people for making the time because we actors are so busy. So let's come back from commercial now.
Okay.
So now we come back to the cafeteria. Okay. The girls are cleaning up the dishes. It's obviously still the weekend because they're in their street clothes. They're not in their school uniforms.
Oh, okay. Look at you being all perceptive.
Yeah. And this is the morning after.
Okay.
The party. Mm-hmm. So it's still the weekend. So the party was either Friday or a Saturday, and now this is Saturday or Sunday. And they're cleaning up the dishes. I comment frequently about how they're supposed to be preparing the meals for an entire girls' school. How often we do not see food. Oh. I should say how rarely we see food.
It's expensive to put them on the set.
Yeah, you could, but you have a props room. There's got to be rubber steaks in there. Or,
well, yeah.
Anyway, you notice that what they're picking up are dishes with crumpled up napkins on them. So every single student at East Lynde is a member of the Clean Plate Club. And their napkins
paper wasters. They are paper wasters.
Napkins are clean, not a lipstick mark or anything. It's just props.
They're just crumpled.
There was crumpled napkins. So Blair is completely annoyed and kind of slamming things around, and they're like, what is the matter? What's going on? And of course, it's Joe going, what is wrong with you? And she's like, I'm still mad at that teacher. And she said, you just said he was a fox. Well, he's sly and sneaky. So now she's like, I've changed my opinion. And at one point, she refers to him as she says, leading her on and taking her out to the dance and showing her a time like that, acting like a do-gooder. And Natalie says, having a date with him would do me some good.
Oh, wait, that's why. It's the gay man line.
Yeah, that's it.
Natalie does the gay man line.
Yeah, if we were on the show, we'd be like, yeah, go on a date with do me some good. The Charles Nelson Reilly.
Yeah. Okay, I see it now.
The Paul Lynde. That's it.
Clear.
She got the Paul Lynde, Charles Nelson Reilly. So through the course of this scene, Blair kind of turns the tide with Tootie and Natalie to make them think ill of him also.
Yeah, she's a little manipulator. I told you she was a bitch.
Hate her so much.
I don't like her, and her hair still hasn't moved. I don't even care if she's in her robe, and her hair is in that sprayed dew.
Yeah, and her voice is doing that inflecting, which is really annoying too. So
she does have pretty eyes. She's
pretty. She's got pretty everything, but we're just not loving her character in this episode. It's not a good Blair episode. And I will also, as another sidebar, Mindy Cohn. She's looking very slim in a fairly form-fitting long sleeve t-shirt, stretchy jersey kind of a shirt with horizontal stripes, no less.
Who does that?
Okay, then Mr. Palmer comes in, and so does Geri, and then they're going to do their date that they planned about, which was going to Sunset Ridge, which is kind of like a romantical makeout point. And he says, and did you bring your something for the day? Yeah. And what is it, like clothes or something to wear for the day and for the evening? And they were like, evening?
What?
And she's like, we're going to have a picnic. So after they leave, Blair goes on this, get out your motorcycle. We're going to follow them. Blair is losing her fucking mind over not trusting what is going to maybe happen on this date.
And why does she feel like she has to be the mother to the 23-year-old? Because she's...
Disability. That's the word. You and I were talking about how when they were trying to do a show with a message like this, how they would do it, and yet at the same time, they wouldn't be politically correct about it. They would be so blunted. Like the fact that this show is about remembering to treat a person who is handicapped like they're a normal person. And the fact that handicapped, it's time, it's of the essence, I don't know. Let's not talk about this. I'm getting punchy too here, I think. So next we go to the final scene of the show. And it is daytime. They're all in their bathrobes, in their pajamas. Clearly, no one at Eastland eats breakfast on the weekends because they should be preparing an entire meal for the entire school.
Right.
Even on the weekends, people eat 3 meals a day. But they're all hanging out, wondering where Geri is because
she hasn't shown up.
She hasn't shown up. She is 12 hours late. And it is very funny how, on one hand, Blair is like, where are they? What's going on here? And the others are like, oh, they're probably just having fun. Oh, why are you making such a fuss? It's like, no, when you're 12 hours late.
12 hours is 12 hours.
That's where you should be concerned.
Right.
And
that's missing person late.
Yeah, exactly. Even though they say 24 hours. But
that's when you start worrying.
That's when you get into a car and say, I know exactly where they were going. Let me go there and see if they are there.
Right.
I mean...
But this is before cell phones, right?
Oh, God, yeah. So. But it's a sitcom, so that's why you would go looking for somebody. Anyhow, Joe beautifully says, hey, look, I'm sure they're fine. If they weren't, we would have heard something from the police.
Or the morgue.
Or a hospital.
Right,
it's
or a hospital.
Oh, God, I never even thought of that, says Blair. So then Geri, for all intents and purposes, floats in.
Yes, because she's... Has she?
Has she? Joy is making the finger in the fist movement to simulate intercourse.
Did she do that? Did they? Is that why she's flying so high?
Is she flying so high because she just got the D?
She got the big D.
Yeah. We don't know that, but the deal is
it's insinuated, is it not? She's 23.
Maybe, but
she's been gone 12 hours longer.
But what did they like fuck in the car? I mean, they didn't. She said they go to a hotel.
Come on, it's the 80s.
I don't know. Did you have sex outside in the 80s, Joy?
No.
Was that a thing?
No.
I know. I certainly
not in the 80s.
Did.
But
Mrs. Garrett says, "Would you girls excuse us? I want to talk to Geri." And Blair includes herself in that and says, "I want to talk to Geri too." And I'm sorry. Earlier, Mrs. Garrett. This is where Mrs. Garrett does state explicitly, Geri is not a child, and we're not her parents. She's 23 years old.
Right.
She's a guest here. She's not a prisoner.
Natalie.
Though she could have called. She does say that. Though she could. It's like, yeah. And I don't think you're out of line to have that expectation when you're staying somewhere.
Right.
I'm not going to be there tonight, so you don't worry.
Right.
But anyway, so then just as the girls are leaving, Joe beautifully leans in to Geri and says, "Hey, if you need help busting out, I'm going over the wall at midnight." And booyah!
See? She's my favorite character.
Joe is these episodes.
She's a fucking tough cookie.
So in this confrontation that now is happening,
right?
We do get the "Why didn't you call?" Or Geri might have even said, "I'm sorry, I didn't call."
Mrs. Garrett gets really kind of pissed off at her and is being parent. She just says in the prior scene, "Well, she can do whatever she wants."
That's exactly how she said it.
You know. But then she sits there and is like, "Well, you didn't call."
I could have called. And she's like, "Well, I was going to call, but then it was too late."
And then it was too early.
Too early. Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
Okay.
Disability getting the D. She puts the D. Mr. Palmer puts the D in disability.
She got the big D. Oh, she can
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Horrible.
Anyhow,
We're going to hell.
We have the best line, and you could sense the audience wanted to kind of applaud, but it was such a good. The scene was intense with them kind of being confrontational, but Blair says, "Look," and she's like. Geri is like, "Blair, why are you acting this way?" And Blair says, "Because, Geri, you don't know about men and you don't have a lot of experience. I didn't want you going out with this guy just because you were grateful that he asked you." And Geri beautifully retorts with, "Grateful? He's lucky I went."
Right.
And there's a little delayed reaction, but you could sense that they were like,
"Oh, yeah.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah." And it's a great line, and it's true. It's very true, and it's kind of the turning point in the conversation where
that's kind of true of the era, anyways. Take away
the disability. Yeah,
and it's that anyway.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, I think that you know we have men who are supposed to ask somebody out on a date. We have men that are supposed to ask you to marry them. We have men that are supposed to take the responsibility, and it's the men get to choose. The women.
And women are socialized to defer to that and sit around and wait for the men to make the decisions for them. Not cool.
I love that so much because I'm a dainty flower.
And then this moment is then kind of, we're brought back to the reality of crappy writing.
Oh.
With Geri imparting on Blair, "Look, when I learned to roller skate, I got hurt. I fell and I got hurt. When I learned to ride a bike, I fell and I got hurt. But now, I know how to roller skate and ride a bike.
And get the big D!"
I think referring to the D is so fucking ridiculous. So thank you for rolling with us. Mrs. Garrett puts in her 2 cents saying, "Rejection is a risk that all of us run when we..."
You have to say it like her, though.
Oh, rejection is a risk we all run when getting... I don't think anyone's been as amused as by
Because
this.
I'm sitting here with Mrs. Garrett, listening to her awkward line reads.
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
But
more
it's
fun.
all about working the upper and the lower with the vibrato.
I know, see, but it's much more effective when it's like,
I've been cultivating it my whole life.
It's good. It's
I've,
good.
I've lived for this moment.
Okay, so what did she say? She says,
I have
"It's
no
something
idea.
that everyone learns. Everyone's got to fall on their ass. Fucking get up. Let them fucking do it." Oh my God, how much would you want to see Mrs. Geri just say, "Shut the fuck up, Blair"?
Joe, you're being a bitch again. Oh my God. We are getting very punchy.
Okay.
Okay. This is where Blair does kind of fess up and say, well, I was doing all this because I wanted to protect you. And I guess I can't do that, really. And then, thankfully, the show does refer to the fact that we have had issues with this in the past, and the other one particular upper, Geri's been on twice before, but she was just like a little side character in it.
Well,
But
it wasn't about her?
it wasn't about her, no. But the deal is, Blair does say, I'm still making mistakes when it comes to you. So her apology is that I've made mistakes in the past and I'm still doing it. And
So does that line make up for the whole episode of her being like that?
I don't think so.
Is that what the writers think?
But I think so. And then Geri says, and she says, maybe at some point I'll get it, is what she alludes to. And Geri says, oh, that's all right, Blair. You're worth the wait. It's like, it's terrible. And back to the finger in the fist movement, Joy.
You're worth the wait. Awkward, can't
yes.
get clean.
No, yeah. This is where the writing gets cheesy bad. So then it's like, well, Blair has apologized. Geri has forgiven her. And now she says, well, just do me this. We need the final joke of the show to button it all and bring it home before they bring down the curtain of the vaudeville house. Where she says, well, just do me a favor. If you're going to break his heart, wait till after my French exam. Yeah. Anyhow.
See, I think I was thinking during the episode too that they didn't do laugh tracks. I was doing a live audience, correct?
Correct. And
it probably could have benefited from a little bit of a laugh track.
Yeah, we've talked about that many times here.
Oh, Mrs.
So what do we
Garrett.
think about this episode as a whole? What did you learn a lesson? Do you think that this is something that modern audiences can get anything out of? Do you?
Yeah, I think if you rewrote it to be a little bit more,
Yeah, it's
obviously.
basically does the message of it hold up? I think, and I think the message holds up, but like so many of these, this happens all the time. The message is good and well intended, but the execution is often clumsy or naive.
And this can apply to a gay kid. This could apply to,
Yeah.
an amputee. This could apply, whatever. I have an ear that sticks out. Whatever it is, whatever it is that you feel like you're. I mean, obviously that's a little more severe than what other people might have to deal with.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is that she's the episode's about her learning about Blair learning that she was leading them all down the wrong path of not trusting somebody who's fully capable of making their own decisions.
Yeah. And Geri really was not aware of Blair's disapproval. Only that scene before they go off on their date does Geri get any type of Blair's negativity. And we have a constant problem with this in every sitcom is read the room, where people are clearly upset and you are oblivious to it. That's where maybe something could have been said, Blair, is everything okay? At which point one of the others should have said, Blair is just in a really rotten mood because she has found a split end. You guys go and have a great time. Like Joe would have said that.
Right.
And then send them off. So then when they get back and Blair is in full on, I forbid you to see him mode. This is where Geri should have had some sense of,
Like, what?
where is this coming from?
Yeah. What is wrong with you?
It's like he's leading you on and he's going to break your heart. And that's where Geri could say, I think that's up to me to decide.
But anybody in Geri's situation, you can have anybody in that situation. And it's still inappropriate for Blair to be saying, I don't think you should go out with this person. How often is that the case with everybody and anybody who goes out with anybody?
Yeah.
I don't see you with them. Well, you're not in their shoes.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, it's like, why take a date that could be just a pleasant time and immediately jump to, he's going to break her heart after they're married for 5 years and have 2 kids together. It's like, or they could just go on a fucking date and you could leave it alone and see how it plays out.
Right. Let people live their life.
Yeah. And like I said, even earlier on, say, when she says, did Romeo and Juliet get along? That's where you could be like, okay, slow your roll, bitch. You could, why don't you just see where it goes? He's nice and you like him. Continue to pursue making sure how you like him and that he is nice.
Well, but you also have a half an hour to, make points and tell an epic story.
Yeah.
In the facts of life.
And you're only in town for the weekend.
Yeah.
And you want to get the D.
Down.
I think this is on par with some of the better episodes. It's not one of the best, but I think it's better because we do have those moments where, like when Geri says, he's lucky. I said I would go. Those moments have such power, I think, that they obliterate the fact that it is not a good Blair episode as far as Blair's behavior, though she does learn her lesson. We were just looking at a couple of the clips. Those were edited out of this show, but we were watching some and being reacquainted with some of Mrs. Garrett's mugging and reaction. And it's like, woo, this is a broad show for Charlotte Rae. But it's a solid season 3 show where the show is.
I really love the message of people are who they are and you got to accept them and you have to trust that they know their life.
Yeah.
And if they're capable and you have to let people be capable.
Yeah. And maybe the little sort of sub-message that they could have further polished it with is, Blair, I have cerebral palsy, but I still can think for myself and I can still make my decisions and I'm not stupid.
Right.
And the idea of, a person has a disability. It is called a disability for a reason. Do they need something extra? Is there something more any of us can contribute to lighten their load of whatever they are dealing with?
Right.
But sometimes I think it's the overarching concept of disability means you can't do anything.
Right.
And I think maybe they could have put in a little something about that there too, but
But I think it could be tweaking. We're talking the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, because it was the 80s, our expectations are very low.
Oh.
As they were for our own selves back in that decade. Well, Joy.
Yes, David.
I never thought I'd say this.
Uh-oh.
But good night.
Oh.
That is a joke that apparently Judy Garland said that to Elaine Stritch after an all-night bender. Like they were out. And Julie said, I never thought I'd say this. Good night. That's the best line ever.
Great.
But no, I mean that, and I mean that in the most delicious, positive way possible.
We've had so much.
We've
shared. I'm so glad to be invited. Thank you.
I have loved every minute of this. It is going to kill me having to edit this and bring this down and trying to decide what to keep and what not to keep. And
Don't
where
keep the dirty parts.
I'm gonna keep them in a separate place.
Touching me inappropriately.
It's now, if you'll excuse us, I've got to go help Joy up a stepladder.
Oh.
Goodbye, my darling. Come back soon.
Yay.
And there you have it. That was Joy Andersen. God, I had so much fun with her. If you want to hear more stories from Joy, in particular details about her time as a Rockette, I highly recommend her guest spot on the Hi, I Think You're Nice podcast, which is my friend Sarah Hanchar's podcast. I will post a link to that on the website and in the show notes. Another thing about Joy that we started to, she brought up and I interrupted her, and it wasn't until I was editing did I hear her mention it, and I went, oh crap, we didn't even talk about it, that we have a picture. It's one of my most prized possessions, actually. Our friend Mark Collins had a big blowout for his 40th birthday party a couple of years back, and he wanted to do it as a 1980s headbanging hairband kind of a theme. And leave it to actors to say, ooh, it's a costume party. So I showed up dressed as Boy George. Joy showed up dressed as Cher. And of course, you know my obsession with Cher. I said, we are taking some pictures together, and we have a couple of amazing shots that I will post and share on the website. Share, see what I did there? And I just absolutely love those pictures. One other point I wanted to make, for all the talking we did and all of the footage I had to edit, we missed the point that Blair says to Geri, you don't have any experience with men. You don't understand. And Geri comes back with her saying, yes, I do. And I think they even say it twice. I think Blair says, you do? And she's like, yes, Blair, I've had experiences with men. So Geri out and out tells Blair, bitch, I'm not a virgin. And by the way, Blair, you are. So you're the one that doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. So that's an additional point there to be made, that not just disabled people can think for themselves, but disabled people also can enjoy sex. Oh, God. The letter writing campaigns are starting as I speak here. It's crazy what's happening to our society in 1981. Anyway, let's move on to next week. Next week, I'm going to be watching Season 3, Episode 11. It's entitled Legacy, and my guest is going to be a returning friend, actress Trinell Mooring. Glutton for punishment, returning for more. Cannot wait. That's all for this week's show. Thank you so much again for listening. And remember, the facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the let's. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.